So to start laying out our email, we will be focusing mainly on the email layout stacks here. Now if you've used either Foundation or Foundry inside of RapidWeaver before, these will look fairly similar to you. So essentially we have a wrapper stack here that we need to add, and then inside of there we can add different layouts, so 1, 2 or 3 or even 4 columns. So let's get started by doing that. Firstly, we'll add the wrapper stack. So this is essentially a container for all of the content. And then we can start adding some of the column stacks. So let's say, for example, at the top we wanted a 1-column header, and then below that we wanted a 2-column layout. So this could be, say, a welcome header inside of here, and then we could have 2 columns of content below that. So once you've added some layout stacks, you can then have a look at the content stacks. And as I say, at the top we might have wanted a header, so we could just drag and drop in a header stack here, and then below that we might want 2 columns of text, so we can just drag and drop the text stacks into here. Then if we want to design this email a little bit further, we can select the header stack, for example, and we can center align that, and we could even center align the 2 text stacks below. Now if we want to preview this email, we can either use RapidWeaver's built-in preview, or you can press Command P on your keyboard and that will open up RapidWeaver's live external preview. And here you can see out of the box we get this nicely laid out email. So we haven't done much work for this, but we do have a center aligned email with a colored background and a 2-column layout with a header above. So if we go back to RapidWeaver, we can expand on this. So for example, if we wanted to change the sizing or the padding for this email, we can do that inside of the style stack. So the style stack holds the overall styling for all of the email that we're building. So you can see here the sizing is 600 pixels. However, if we wanted 780, we could just enter that there. Go back to Safari and you'll see that the width updates. Now if you want to be more advanced, you can click on the plus button here, and that will give you options for the global margins, column spacing, text spacing and things like that. So by default you'll see it's 16 pixels, however we might want to change this to be, say, 20 pixels for the margin, and maybe the column spacing should be 20 as well. And you'll see that the preview here gets updated as I change these settings. So if we go back to Safari and refresh, you'll see that the padding ever so slightly changed, so from 16 pixels to 20 pixels, and we can update that at any time and our preview or our email will be updated to reflect. Okay, so let's go back to RapidWeaver and just have a look at a couple more stacks before we move on and actually build our first real email. And the next stack that I want to look at is the image stack here. So if we just drag and drop that in above the header. Now as I mentioned in the previous video, there are a few different ways to host images inside of your emails. We're not going to go into too much detail in this video, we are going to cover it later on in the course, but I am going to be mainly focusing on the drag and drop image support. So that means that we can drag and drop an image into here rather than using the warehoused image. Now if you don't want to drag and drop emails into here and you do want to use warehousing, then click on the warehousing option here and you can simply enter an image URL. So this is handy if you already have a bunch of images on your server that you want to use in your emails. You can simply copy the URL and paste it into here and you're done. You don't need to worry about where the image is being hosted, or you don't need to worry about how you're actually going to get this image online. But as I say, in this course we're going to mainly focus on using drag and drop image support inside of RapidWeaver. The reason we're doing that is because that will allow us to just drop the images that we want to use inside of RapidWeaver, and RapidWeaver will handle all of the exporting and everything like that for us. So on my desktop I have an assets folder. Now this assets folder is included in the course download, so you'll have all of these images and stuff like that available to you. And inside of the general folder here you'll see I have a Real Mac logo. So this is the first image I'm going to use, so I'm just going to drag that and drop it into the image well here. And there you will see that the image gets added into our page straight away. Now, one thing to note is that you will need to set up the width and height sizing for all of your images. So if I go and open up that RealMac logo inside of Preview, and we get the sizing, so we say this is 320 by 170. Now I probably want this to be sharp on Retina, so what I'm going to do is half the size of this. So we're going to set this image as 160 by 85, and you'll see the preview gets updated there. Now if we go back to Preview in Safari, you'll see our image has been added to the email. So it's going to be as simple as that to add images to the rest of the emails that we build in this course. Okay, so we're not going to spend too much time on images, so let's have a look at a couple more stacks before we move on. So the next one is a button. So let's just drag and drop a button into the left-hand column here. And again, if you've used Foundry or Foundation, the settings for this is going to be pretty familiar to you. So we can set the color scheme, so primary or secondary, and you'll see here in the style stack, this is where you set up those color schemes. So if we use accent 1, for example, we'll get this red color. And we can update those colors by going to the style stack and changing the colors here. So if we want the primary color to be purple, we can choose it there. Then we can go back to our button and select the primary color scheme. Next, we can update the text, so we could say buy now, and we can set the link, so we'll leave it as emailstacks.com for now. And then we want to have a rounded corner, so we'll select the radius option here, and you'll see that the corners get slightly rounded. Or you can set this to round, so that gives you a pill type button there. We're going to use the radius option, and we'll set this to be center aligned, for example. Okay, if we go back to Safari and refresh, you'll see that we now get that buy now button in below the text. Okay, next up we'll have a look at the link list. So we'll drag and drop that into the right hand column, and what I'm actually going to do is just delete that text. So we'll have a list of links on the right hand side here. So we'll select the link item that is added for us, and you'll see you can set the text and the link to where you want it to go to. You can also set the type, so text, image, or warehoused image. We'll leave it as text for now, but we will add a couple more links. So we'll just say link 2, and we'll add one more. We'll say link 3, like so. And then finally on the link list here, you can see that you have some layout options. So we want this to be a vertical list, and you'll see that the preview below gets updated. So by default it's horizontal, but as I say, we want this to be vertical. So if we go to Safari and refresh our preview, you'll see that we get those added there. Okay, next up I want to show you a couple more of the layout stacks. And an important one is going to be the spacer stack here. So if you want to add spacing or margin in between any of the items on your email, you're going to need to use this special spacer stack. So as an example, if we wanted some more space between the logo and our header, we'd add the spacer stack here, and then we need to set the height. So if we want 40 pixels here, we set that there. We go back to our preview and refresh, and you'll see we get a bit more spacing between perhaps our header area and the main content area of our email. Now the reason that we have this spacer stack is because of the way that these emails need to be built. We can't just set padding and margin like we do in standard RapidWeaver projects. That is because emails need to be built in a very specific way using a lot of tables. So it's very old school, and it's a little bit more complex to build up email templates. So we can't just add padding and margin and things like that to individual items. Often the email layouts will break if we do this. And that is why the spacer stack has been provided for us. So if you ever find the need to add any space between items, make sure you use this stack instead of anything else. Okay, finally we'll just add a divider stack in here just to show you this one. This essentially gives you a horizontal rule across the page, And yeah, that's all you need to do. Just drag and drop the divider onto the page and refresh, and you'll see that we get that divider between our header and our main content. Okay, so I think that'll just about do it for this video. We haven't covered all of the stacks, but we have covered most of the ones we're going to use throughout this course. In the next video, what we're going to do is actually start building some of these example emails. So you can see here in the example emails folder that is also included in your course download, we have 4 examples that we're going to actually build. So I've got an Airbnb promo, so this is essentially a marketing email. We've also got the Apple iPhone promo email. Then we have a Chewy receipt or order confirmation email where we list out a few products that a customer has purchased. And then finally we have a simple notification email. So if you need to send out emails, perhaps a welcome message or a you've forgotten your password message, stuff like that, we're going to build that type of notification email as well. So as I say, join me in the next video and we'll start building some of these emails.